All right. Thank you, Matt, and thank you for having me tonight for the group. I really appreciate your time and all of you guys for giving up your evening in early in this cycle. So tonight I'm here, as Matt said, to talk to you guys about a measure that is coming to you early in June on the ballot. It is called Measure A. Once I get permission to share, I will share. But I'll start talking. Before that, we have been doing some legwork behind the scenes 5 or 6 years prior to this on essentially needs that have come up in our San Dimas and Laverne K through 12 schools that have been due to infrastructure, really necessities that all our students of high performing, low performing kinders, middle school, high school kids will all benefit from. And what we have seen is that there are a number of needs that our schools have, but unfortunately, as many of the Democrats know, our needs may be long, but the money tree doesn't grow. So we pared that list down from close to $1 billion, and we trimmed it down to just under $260 million. So what we have in front of you is a short presentation that is essentially yes on A, and it is to keep our schools updated, as I was previously sharing with you, but more importantly, to keep us excellent and in our academic success and our art success and all the things Bonita and San Dimas or Laverne and San Dimas schools pride themselves on, but also to keep them safe. We want to send our kids to school and really know that your child's going to be dropped off at the line, or you send the San Dimas High or Bonita High or Lone Hill, and they're going to be safe. So why do we really need it? Our schools are cared for, and we have excellent maintenance crews and excellent administrators and amazing proctors and teachers, but those schools have become anywhere from 30, 40, 50, all the way up into 100 years old, and roofs leak, and heating and air conditionings are old. And during that first week in August this year, we had well over 10 schools where their air conditioning failed. And so this became a priority, like I had said, starting in 1920 school year, where we started to create that list of what we needed and what we wanted. And really it became a need of our quality schools will strengthen and protect those property values. And it is definitely a argument from the opposition party that, why do we need another tax measure, or why do we need another tax put in? But it is truly an investment in our schools that will keep our home values high. It will benefit those children going to schools. And you can see a quick picture here that shows our aging systems. They do need upgrading. You can see that image where it shows a classroom at 87 degrees. You can see our wonderful maintenance and operations staff members working hard to repair those HVAC systems. Another area of critical need that we saw and determined were San Dimas sites had plumbing issues that were so bad it forced our schools to be shut down for a day and a half last year during the school year. And this also was not due to lack of care or lack of wanting to fix it, but it was truly because that our piping and our plumbing infrastructure had become so outdated that we are forced to now go for a bond that will require us to make these massive overhauls and keep our schools safe and updated. We have a wonderful problem where we need more space, where several schools in surrounding areas, whether it's a Azusa, whether it's a Charter Oak, are facing declining or shrinking. Bonita has a predicament where we need more space. So we need to upgrade, we need to maintain, we need to keep our portables, which have become semi-permanent, but we need to maintain these, and these are problem that keeps increasing in price as construction prices and costs go up, as do materials. And then we are not abyss, or we're not exempt from having security issues and safety issues. Several secondary sites have indicated that they need and want security cameras. They also want, many of our sites want one entrance, one exit. So as you can see in that middle row of photos right there, we need to have a one entrance and one exit. That will require moving the central office. You can see in the top or the third row over on my screen, it is a gate for San Dimas. And we also have to worry about how many entrance and exit points we have on each campuses as we deal with new safety and security concerns in this new 21st century. Another thing that has come up is we have exceptionally high scores in Bonita Unified School District. So I walked the Ramona School site earlier this week, and I walked through every science classroom with our wonderful principal there, Mr. Ellis. And we don't have true science dedicated classrooms with labs in them. And we're going to go so far as to, if the bond passes, which I'm fingers crossed and super confident it will, we're going to make a science dedicated labs and a science building at both of our high schools. And this will cost money. And as you can see in the pictures, we need to upgrade some of these science rooms throughout our secondary classrooms as well at both Lone Hill and Ramona. So from this, and I said that we go back to 2019, you're going to see some of the data here. We were doing this as far back as 25, but we went back even further. And we did it with phone calls, with email invites, with text invites. We did telephone interviews. We did online interviews. And then we really tracked the survey data 2.5 years ago and then 2 years before that. And we reached out in English. We reached out in Spanish. And we interviewed over 500 people to get a cross-section of people in the Bonita Unified School District. And it was on a likely November vote for this year. But as I said, we are going to do a June vote. If you look at this, voters are more likely to say their community is headed in the right direction. That was in 2023. However, they're less likely to say their schools are headed in the right direction. So if we look at the 2019 to 2025 data, they were 66% say their community was going in the right direction in 2019 versus a 2025. And it correlates to a local school level where you had 56% versus a 40% saying their local schools were heading in the right direction. But if you pin that against a county data, we're double where people felt that they were heading in the right direction, whether it was school or their community. So I want to pin that on the backdrop of we are doing a wonderful thing in our schools and our community, whether it's San Dimas or Laverne. However, 7 in 10 voters had a great opinion of Bonita Unified School District, and that is close to 40% somewhat favorable and over 30% very favorable. And I do want to focus on that gray area down there. You know, I don't know about you, but I don't see how you could have never heard about Bonita Unified School District, right? We're such a great place to be in. So a key thing we're looking at is how do we convince those voters on the bottom to really go for Measure A? How can we convince them? What we've noticed in the last 3 years is there is a little bit of a decrease in the perception that Bonita Unified District has at least some need for funding. Okay, and that's a little bit of a drop. If you can see that, the key numbers we're looking at on the voting poll is in June, we need more than that great or some need. And it's floating at about 53% right now. And I'll show you a little more data coming up. But in 2023, it was at 64%. And in 2019, it was only at 50%. but currently we're sitting at about 53%, and that's plus or minus. So here's the hypothetical thing we tested them with. To replace AC, heating, HVACs, repair and upgrade roofs, plumbing, safety and school security, science classrooms and labs, repair and construct classroom sites, facilities, and equipment. And we are going for $256 million in bonds at a legal rate, levying about $59 per 100,000 of your assessed value, raising $16 million annually while bonds are outstanding. Any questions so far? Okay.
I don't see any hands raised just yet.
All right. So 57% of your registered voters favor this on the initial reading, just when we gave them that and they read it out. It is above our 55% passage rate, but it's kind of within that margin of error when you go a plus or minus, as we know polling does with our research company that did the data for us. Now, we look at this number circled on the bottom orange, which is a 28%, a hard no. And then we look also at that 6% undecided. So if you have your plus or minus 5%, which we know is a total yes, 57, it could be in the low 60s, it could be down in the 52%, but we really want to focus on our maybe leaning no at 2%, are probably at 8%, and then our undecided. So how can we, and that's also part of the reason why I want to come here and ask you tonight, right? How can we do better? And how can we get your support as wonderful Democrats on really helping to sway the energy and the wonderful momentum that we have as a group of Democrats to really move the needle a little more upwards of that 57%. Here is Bonita Unified's and our Measure A priorities when we sent this out. Removing hazardous materials. We have lead, we have asbestos. We cannot, I want to be very clear, we cannot use bond money to retain quality teachers. That is not part of the bond, right? We want to repair and upgrade leaky roofs. That came out really strong. We want to we want to help students for skilled trades. But by doing that, we can create classrooms that are up to date and state of the art. We want to put in better fire alarms, smoke detectors, security cameras. We want to update electrical and wiring, so God forbid it doesn't cause a fire or something. We want to repair and upgrade all components of fire safety, sprinklers, things like that. We want to remove lead paint and asbestos. That tested really well. And it is not just a test data number. That is something that needs to be done for our littles, our high schools, right? Our kids in general in the K through 12 population. We do need to repair sewer lines and gas, as I said in the beginning. We have schools that are anywhere from 30, 40, 50, 60 years old. The plumbing goes bad, just like in your house. It is time to repair the plumbing. We need to fix portables or deteriorating classrooms. We need to replace air conditioning, HVAC systems. We need to improve routes, ingress, egress for students with disabilities. We need to work on our emergency communication system. Some of our sites are operating on an old school PA system. And we need to make sure that all students that go through Bonita Unified have state-of-the-art science labs. I stressed that earlier. We have amazing test scores. They're better than the surrounding areas. We want to give these students the state-of-the-art labs that they deserve with their amazing test scores. So what it came down to with this impact, and this is really the messaging that I hope you guys will help us deliver out as Democrats? Well, we want to improve our HVAC, right? What is our big mission statements to send out into the community? This is our strongest statement. We need to repair it. The kids need to learn in a cool, healthy, safe environment, right? And I want to stress that this is all done in a fiscal, accountable, every dollar's tracked. We need to have career education, and it allows schools to upgrade and expand their classrooms, right? How can we provide those state-of-the-art classrooms? Plumbing. Hold on one second. Real quick. Oops, my thing went away. So plumbing, and then safety and security. Many schools in the districts are still operating with outdated security cameras, fire alarms that are 20 years old, and current PA systems. Science labs. Science labs are a huge push for us, and they are outdated and lack the equipment that we need. So this is another thing, and I stressed that earlier. And then Bonita Unified is one of the top districts, whether it's reading, whether it's testing, whether it's arts, and we rank in the top 6% for its literacy program. We're National Blue Ribbon, we're California Distinguished Schools, and we really need to invest in this safe learning, quality, rigorous environment that we provide for our kids. So we need to commit to doing that for them. So after education, overall support increased by 4 points. But if we did this for a yes vote, it increased by close to 10 points. And the undecideds went down by only 2%. So we did manage to pick up some 2% on the undecided. And this again now is on a June ballot. The definite support declines after 9 points, after your critical statements, after your negative statements. So if we look at the electorate, I don't want to bog you down with a ton of this, but when we split the city up, Laverne got an initial vote of 52%, and all these are in a backdrop of a plus or minus 5%. After we gave them some education, it went up to 56, but it dropped down to 48, which is not passing after some critical statements. San Dimas went from 59 to 65 down to 52. And if you combine them, we're finishing with initial vote, education, and critical at about a 52 with 7% undecided. And this is when you lay it all on top of each other from 2019 to 2023 to 2025. So you're asking now, well, how do we get this thing to pass, right? What is the ticket? What is the magic thing that will make this thing pass? We are currently looking very good in San Dimas. The initial outreach is very positive. It's excited. People are wanting this. Laverne is excited. Laverne wants it to pass. We do have a little more Republican influence in Laverne, especially northern Laverne. So our focus will be in the next, it is April. We basically have 2 months. In the next 2 months is how can we really work on solidifying our yes votes, and how can we work on getting some of those possibly or maybe no votes to come to the yes side, right? Support for the measure is, again, we need this to pass at 55%, right? So here's where we are. We are at the point of step 4. We were at the feasibility, we were at awareness building and measurement development. We are now needing endorsements, which we're getting. We're now at the grassroots. We've got our signs ordered, the mailers and digital ads, they are coming in. And now we're to the point of where we need you guys. We need groups coming out and we need to get out the vote. We have an event on April 19th as our official kickoff vote, kick off this whole Measure A, and it will be in Laverne. I will show you that on our last slide. But here's an overview of our district informational materials. You might have already gotten one of these mailed to your household. You will for sure be getting one soon. And this is the breakdown. This is what we are saying. We're going to repair and upgrade leaky roofs and gas and sewer lines. We are going to upgrade your school security and fire safety, including smoke detectors and fire alarms. We're going to update your science labs and classrooms and equipment and providing your in-demand careers, whether it's tech, engineering, and your health science. And we are going to remove toxic lead paint and asbestos. And now I'm coming to you again. How can I serve you and get you guys to help me with outreach? And that is the last slide I have. But this is the kickoff. It is at Coons Park. It is from 1 to 4. You guys are all invited on April 19th from 1 to 4. So does anybody have questions?
And I may have missed this myself. What were the critical issues, the issues that were critical that changed people's minds?
I think the critical issues that came out were, number one, we are paying on a bond right now that is going to be ending in about 5 years. We are paying on another bond that will end in about 4.5 or 5 years after that. So to be very transparent on the record, right? Critical issues are people are feeling like we are going to be paying on a third bond.
Okay.
And that is definitely a critical issue. Another critical issue is that people, and we pointed that out in our PowerPoint, but also messaging that we were trying to get out as well, is people are in an era of they want fiscal transparency and fiscal accountability. Most people aren't as educated that we have a whole bond accountability team that gets set up once this thing gets passed. And we, on our last 2 bonds, have had the same bond accountability team that has made sure that every bond dollar has been tracked and spent equitably and in the right way, and not used in the wrong way as it should be. So, and I think a group of people that are critical of this bond want to know that it is not going to salaries or pensions or administrators. And so that is a memo that we have to work on getting out as well. And no dollars can be spent on teachers, janitors, administrators, pensions, things like that. That is part of this bond.
And I just want to hit home. I saw it in the presentation, but hit home. What is the vote threshold that has to be achieved in order for this bond to pass successfully?
I say 55 plus 1, so 56%, but it's 55%.
I have a question, Matt. So Geoff, yeah, I've lived in San Dimas for quite a long time, and I intend on voting in favor of this measure.
Thank you.
Is there any information or supportive information that would help people understand that this is actually going to help improve property values, in my opinion, by improving the school system? Have you looked into that at all?
No, you know what? We have not created anything directly for that, but that is a great idea. I'll be very transparent. That's a great idea. And it's actually one of the biggest arguments I get in North Laverne.
Is that it's going to help?
How is it going to help? Because
Oh, I
I
see.
don't have a kid in the game anymore and I don't see the skin in voting for this.
Yeah. It's my understanding that it will help property values.
Oh, it will. Yeah, there's historically a direct connection to greater schools, greater quality of your schools, greater conditions of your schools, create a greater resale value for your home, a greater Zillow value for your home
Okay, great.
in
Thank
the
you.
day and age we live in. But
Thank
I
you.
will, you know what, Dave, I will work on that with our committee and the company we work with and get something created actually for that.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
And if I could just add, the top performing districts in Southern California, La Cañada, Arcadia, Walnut, they all have bonds. They all have campuses that are absolutely beautiful. And it really does, it helps, it attracts residents, which makes your home value go up. So I know you understand that, David. But just if people ask you that, it does help to have a great school district. People move to Bonita. I'm retired from a district. People move here because we have great schools. And I think the other point I would mention is of the two bonds that Geoff's talking about that we're in the process of paying off, those two bonds, all of the projects that the district said they would do were completed, which is pretty amazing. Because before I was a school district person, I was an auditor and I worked in lots of school districts, and most districts do not complete their project list. Bonita did because Bonita has great leadership, both the board and the administration. So, and I can say that because I'm retired now. So, but they did a great job. And then also, just one more point that Geoff was saying, it's a requirement by law that we have a bond oversight committee. Thanks for mentioning that, Geoff. But people don't always know that. And we've had great oversight committees. I was working at the district at the tail end of that. Great people from both communities who really took it seriously. And even though the district is, always on the up and up, they were great supporters of us too. So I think all those are really strong selling points. Like I said, I'm retired, but I'm working on this campaign because I really believe in this, and my kids are way out of school. So, but it is really good for property values. Thank you for asking that, David. I know you know all that.
I would echo exactly what she said as well, because a lot of it is about curb appeal. And we live in a day and age of, what does your social media look like? How does that look? How does the front yard of your house look? And these last couple bonds that have went through, if you drive by Bonita High, right? If you drive by San Dimas, Lone Hill, and you see the BCA, I got a girl who's going to San Diego tomorrow to sing, but she sings in acts at the BCA. It is beautiful, and we did not do those projects on year-to-year general fund budgets. We did it out of a bond. And I think that is the critical thing, that this bond will be done with maybe not as pretty projects, but they will be done with projects that are vital to the everyday student, whether it's plumbing, air conditioning, smoke alarms, right? Security cameras, because you want your little kiddo to feel safe when you drop them off at Oak Mesa or, Ramona or Allen, right? These are things that really hit home to, or I hope they hit home to the average parent or grandparent, right? And these are things that I am passionate about, right? I teach, just not in this district. So I'm an advocate of it. So I do hope, if you have questions, please ask them. But I do hope to see you guys or someone at the April 19th event. It's in the afternoon in Laverne. I'll share this presentation with Matt. Matt's just been so gracious and nice since I've gotten to meet him and work with him.
There seems to be, I guess, maybe a little bit of confusion on how school districts are funded, and why local bond measures like this are necessary. And if there's a way that you can provide a bit of clarity in this forum, again, this is being recorded and we'll be sharing it to our members. But I don't think many people realize that local bond measures are a necessity when it comes to facility improvements, and districts like Bonita Unified have been good stewards, like you said, the BCA, gyms. But why are local bond measures necessary?
Well, I think I'll start off, and then I know Susan is a little more of an expert on the nitty gritty on general funds and different portions of a school budget. But as I stated earlier, schools are bound by several laws in California on how they spend their money, and they're funded actually primarily by what is called ADA, or average daily attendance. And it's how many kids are actually going to your school, and then the teachers taking attendance correctly. And when you put all that into the calculation, most of most of your budget, your general fund, right, if I'm correct, Susan, gets spent on salaries. And so automatically, you can say August 1st, right? Because that's when the teachers are coming back, and the classified and the janitors and the wonderful people that do all the behind the scenes work, the board and the finance and the super. When we have great people on the board and the finance and the super, right? We have wonderful people in Bonita. And all of a sudden you're seeing a lot of that money go away. So when you talk about a school bond, which we're going for with Measure A, and we're talking about air conditioning it at 10, 11, 12 sites for all the sites, all the air conditioners, right? Or you're talking about sewers, redoing them all, right? Or a new gym. We, in any school district, just do not have that money at all available to fund that. And then a wonderful argument would be, well, then why doesn't California just pay for it all? That would be a phenomenal solution. And anybody listening, if you pull this up on the internet 10 years from now, please solve that problem and make California just pay for it all. But unfortunately, that's not the real answer. And so we have to go to what is called a bond, and we have to ask our wonderful residents in whatever community you reside in. And our bond is going to be Verne and San Dimas, to ask the residents to pass a bond. And I know Susan's a little more knowledgeable than I am on the ins and outs.
I think that was a really good answer. Yeah, our general fund, which is our operating fund, probably about 82% of that money is used on salaries and benefits, because, we are a people organization of teachers and counselors and principals and, the cafeteria people, the bus drivers, custodians, maintenance, all those guys. So we are required by the state to spend 3% of that on just ongoing maintenance. And we spend, I think the district, at least when I was there, spending actually more than 3%. So the district is doing everything they can to keep the buildings and grounds up. And you can see that when you're driving around. But the older things that are happening in the schools, there's just no way you can pay for that out of general funds. Back in the day, the state did give districts money to build schools. That funding has virtually dried up. And when I say back in the day, I'm talking like 50 or 60 years ago. And I think most of you guys know we have one very old school, Laverne Heights, which is like 100 years old. We have one new school, Oak Mesa, which I think is built in the 80s, but most of the schools were built in the late 50s, early 60s. So if you think, there's just like 60, 70 years ago, if you think if your house is that old, stuff just wears out. And we are really on our own when it comes to replacing those major systems. And then for things like science labs, if you think of how the technology has changed since, for sure, when I was in school, but everybody, it's just so new and everything's updated. And we are working with science labs that are just really sad. I hate to say it. We used to, when I was the assistant soup there, we'd be like, oh, these science labs, what are we going to do? And our teachers, as nothing, our teachers, they are working so hard and they make it work, and they teach because they're great people. But teachers are really excited when you say, oh, we're going to redo your room and upgrade everything. They get really excited. So So it really is the only way for us to have them, for any school district to have the money to do these kind of upgrades, is to pass a bond.
Yeah, and I think I would add on a little more. What she said is it's like if you even go to the site level, she mentioned Oak Mesa and Laverne Heights. If you go to their principal and say, like, hey, what do you need, right? We might be able to fix everything Oak Mesa needs out of a general year, 2 or 3, maybe general fund stuff. But we can't do 11, 12 site. We can't do that. There is not enough money at all to do this without a bond. And it is stuff that isn't just a wish list. Like I said in the beginning of my presentation, that was $1 billion wish list that I sat in meetings with over a year ago. And we've trimmed it down to $250 million. And like I said, we have great board members. We have great finance people. Our superintendent is a class act solid guy, and he is on it. And he has pared it down to what will serve our students the best. And that is why I'm passionate about it. I'm excited. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, and I really want this bond to pass.
Matthew, could I give a shout out to Brittany Allison? I see that she's on the Zoom.
Yeah, hi, Brittany.
She's done such a great
Hi,
job.
everybody.
Hey, Brittany, good to see you.
She is a wonderful board member who is advocating, and I'm going to plug her right now, and it's recorded because she is promoting a reading program that is amazing, and maybe I can even get her to say 30 seconds about it. So this meeting is not about Measure A, which I hope passes, but about her reading program.
Please.
I would love to speak on that. Dolly Parton's Imagination Library is the dream program for every community. It sends a book a month to enrolled kids from birth to 5 years old. And we know the power of literacy. So to me, it's probably the most impactful program when it comes to issues of equity and closing the gap in education, getting books directly in the hands of families that are creating this magical literacy moment by a book arriving in the mailbox, right? That's a dream program. And because of this program that Dolly Parton and her foundation supports, we're able to do that for like a couple bucks a book. There is no local organization that could send books of that quality mailed directly to someone's house for that cost. It's a large fundraising goal because we want to be able to enroll as many kids as we can in all of East San Gabriel Valley. But once we get this program off the ground, it is going to be easy for families to see the value and want to make their own contributions, want to sponsor other kids and keep this program going forever. And as a board member, I just think what a dream it would be for our TKers and our kindergartners to come into their classrooms with the shared experiences of actually having the same libraries at home. They've read the same books. They love the same books. And having that community building moment literally from the first day that our kids walk into the classroom, it gives me chills all over my body. It would be a dream. And if anybody ever wants to help with this initiative, wants to raise funds with this initiative, go ahead and reach out and ask questions. I will be at the kickoff event for the bond. I will be doing knocking on doors and doing all of that for this. So, I'm an earshot away anytime you want to hear about this as well.
And do you have any closing remarks that you'd like to share?
No, I think I really appreciate the time. I appreciate your evening that you guys are letting me come on and talk about something that I'm passionate about and the kids and their future in the district, right? That's why we're here, because it's such a great place to be. And again, we are having our kickoff, hopefully to have you guys with us on April 19th in the afternoon. I will forward this presentation over to Matt, And then if you guys have any questions, please reach out. I'll also send him my email. He has it. But please reach out if you guys have any questions. So he'll have my email and my cell phone.